Alright, this next video here is my tutorial on an implementation of what I did on my professional development day. I had about 30 teachers at it, and the first video shows me just explaining very much what a lot of the things on the website do. Explain the concept of unpacking the standards, making meaning of it through backwards design. And the second video that I have shows a lot of the teachers going through the thinking process. I believe I have about 3 or 4 different teachers going through that, and either me questioning or going through it with them, or them just thinking out loud, which I think is a really cool idea to have and show, like, not just English, but social studies and math and art, going through unpacking informational text and developing it into some pretty unique projects. Within that video, I also showed the end product of what they've developed and posted in my Edmodo account.
And I came down to a couple major things that I wanted to accomplish. I think one of the big things that we're seeing with Common Core over the next couple of years is a heavy emphasis on reading across the curriculum and writing across the curriculum. And what concerns me is that we're going through unpacking the standards and trying to make meanings of these standards in math, and we're looking at it in English. We're really not building towards anything. You know, that's something that was strange to me when we're going to these meetings once a month for Angie Garza and all these things. It's like we're unpacking these standards, but what does it mean? What are we going to do with it? Where are we going with that? And so I came to the conclusion that one of the good things that I could do is develop a professional development here about unpacking the standards, making meaning of that, and building assessments and things that go across curriculum, the informational text and writing. So today I'm just going to look at informational texts and how we unpack that, and how we understand that, how we make meaning of that, and how do we develop questions and overarching ideas that allow us to develop effective curriculum and assessments. How teachers should implement this. How do we implement this? How do we go through this? All that can be taught. We don't really understand all the things that can be taught. We think just because they have these new, fewer standards that we're going to be restricted in what we teach. That's not the way it works. Common Core isn't supposed to be curriculum. It's supposed to be an idea of where we're going with our information. So it seems a little odd to me that in like science or in the tech subjects that they wouldn't have speaking and listening in that. You know, you can do a lot of projects and maybe present your ideas, and yet that's not something that's going to be in the standards. We'll see if that pans out. Like I said, they haven't introduced those Common Core standards yet. Click. When there's so much information already out there about unpacking these standards, because I don't think we're really making meaning when we unpack them. I think you make meaning when you interpret them. Okay? So if you scroll down, Pete, keep going all the way down to like an actual standard. There we go. All right. So if you look here, here's your anchor standard. Read closely to determine what the text says explicitly and to make logical inferences from it. Cite specific textual evidence when writing or speaking or supporting conclusions drawn from text. And then what they do is they break it down to essential skills. They demonstrate the behaviors of a strategic reader, analyze text clues. They break it down, and they do a really good job of it. I think this is an awesome document. But this is as far as we've gone. If we've done this correctly, is that we've broken this down. But what do we do with it? Now that we have these standards broken down, where do we go? So what I've designed, if you click on the Word document, the blank template, and this is based off of backwards design concepts. Wiggins, way back in the day, I believe 1998, came up with this book called Understanding by Design. And Understanding by Design takes you from the big picture, where you're going, and you go backwards down from your assessments to your formative assessments to the lessons, and all the way down to the minutia of those things. Where does it start? It starts with the standards. So what I wanted you guys to do today is take a particular standard and go through this process. And it's pretty simple and straightforward in terms of how you go about doing that. I have an example if you want to open it up, and I went through To Kill a Mockingbird with it. You take a look. What I ended up doing is I picked several standards. I have both the writing standards and the speaking and listening standards on this. I didn't do informational text so much because I was focusing on the concept of To Kill a Mockingbird here and breaking down these ones. I wanted to understand these. But I took the standard and the definition of that standard. So I took the anchor standard on the Maryland site, I copied and pasted it onto here. And then I took the unpacked information and pasted it into here. Magical. And so now I have my standard and I have the essential skills of what they're going to do. And this is where it starts to get more of making meaning and understanding this. I look at the overarching ideas and the essential questions. These are Wiggins' words. Okay? And when I look at this, an overarching idea is what a skill is, what skills are necessary to show learning. And I call this the endured learning process. When a kid forgets all about To Kill a Mockingbird, and he only remembers the skill, the idea of that skill, what is it going to be? And I call that endured learning. And so what I said here are various sources, primary and secondary, can be used in drawing conclusions as to why those sources were developed and what they showed about a time period. So when I'm thinking about To Kill a Mockingbird, and I'm like, okay, what do I want them to really learn? I want them to be able to learn when I'm using my texts, my nonfiction text here is that they should be able to use their skills to draw a conclusion as to why those sources were developed in the first place. So why did Letter of Birmingham Jail, why did that get developed in the first place? Okay, that's a concept that I want them to be able to do and to be able to master, and if they go into a new situation in learning, can they handle that on their own? The other thing that I have here is media can be used to present information to inform an audience about an event. Can they go into a new situation based upon the skills that I've taught in this unit and be able to present something on their own? So that's that endured learning concept. So once I've come up with a couple questions there, or a couple ideas there, I transform it into essential questions. And these are the things that drive the development of your curriculum. When you're developing an assessment, you're developing a unit, what are those essential questions that you're asking your students? So I said, how can a society use forms of humanity to express change? That's a broad, strong question. Okay? When we're looking at that, what are forms of humanity? How do they use literature? How do they use music? How do they use art? How do they use those things to express the concept of change? How can we understand how a society experiences change through the use of media? And then why does society express itself when undergoing change? Those are my big questions when I'm looking at how I'm going to develop my To Kill a Mockingbird unit. And as you go on and you develop this stuff, I have another form that I use to expand upon these ideas as well. But notice the big thing that I'm doing is I'm not just using the essential skills up here, I'm converting it into ideas and questions that are going to drive my curriculum. So I'm only using the standards and unpacking those standards and making meaning of those to really express the concepts that I want to accomplish in my curriculum.